It's Luc Mullinder, your color voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. There's my man. Hey, how's it going?
How you doing, man?
We haven't chatted in a while. Good.
I know, it's been a minute.
Whoa. I know it's been a
Sorry.
minute. Hey, we're 24 days away from a federal election, and I have to ask you, is your phone blowing up with calls and texts, people wanting to do political surveys and stuff? Because mine sure is. Like, I got numbers coming in from all over the place, multiple times a day.
Really? No, yeah, I haven't. It hasn't really hit me like that. I think that maybe I do also a good job of just not answering calls that come across my cell phone that I don't know. So yeah. So I think that's probably just given up on me by now.
Well, it's funny because when I texted you last week about coming on the show, I'm like, you got back to me the next day, which is fine. We're adults. We have lives. I'm like, oh, good. Whew. There's Luke.
Yeah.
God, we're still cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of things. If you missed the first part of the show, Dave Thomas was on, and we have Jamie Nugent-Bauer on from Notre Dame, and he started calling Dave Big Daddy Dave. And he mentioned Big Daddy Dave like 4 times in this interview. Did you know that Dave's nickname apparently is Big Daddy Dave Thomas?
Look, Maz, A, I did not know that. And B, I can safely confirm to you that I will never in my life refer to another man as Big Daddy anything. So, that's
I'm going to say I was a little taken back. The first time he said it, I was like, did he just call Dave Big Daddy? And then he said it 2 or 3 more times. And even the double C's, Colson and Curtis, were like, yeah, we heard that too. So maybe when you guys are on the road, it's a long flight somewhere, maybe you get backstory. I'm not going to ask. I feel uncomfortable.
I don't even want to know. I don't want to know the backstory to that. I'm not interested in the backstory to that.
Okay. Tomorrow night, you're in Zennon Park at a sports dinner. Is that it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I you know what? It's funny. I was very humbled to be invited out to chat at Zennon Park, but I've heard a lot about it, and Dave said a lot of great things about it. So, anytime you can get out into Saskatchewan, I spend obviously a lot of time in the centers, Saskatchewan, Regina, Saskatoon, and some of the other larger towns, but very rarely do I get to travel into rural Saskatchewan, and I love touching base with Rider Nation in our rural area. So I'm excited about it. And you know what? I get to hang with a couple champions in another sport. So it should be a good evening. And it's always an added bonus when you are able to raise some funds.
Okay, that's good. Dave did want to get us to ask you if you speak French. We don't know the meaning behind this, but apparently it's an inside joke or something. I don't know. Dave wanted to know.
Well, I know enough French to know if someone's talking junk about me.
Okay.
So I think that I would be comfortable identifying if someone was talking a bunch of crap. But other than that, I'm one of those guys who I can understand it, but I can't have the conversation behind it. So.
All right. So tomorrow night, if you're going to be who else is with you at this sports dinner in Zennon Park?
I'm not sure. I know just Dave Thomas and then two NHL players. I think they're obviously a little bit younger than I am. I think they're just starting out in their NHL careers. But I'm excited to meet them. I don't have it right here in front of me. I forgot their names. But obviously hockey is such a major part of this province as well, right? So it's always good to be able to mingle around guys that have different experiences in life, right? Just because the sports are 2 different sports and they really sort of fly in 2 different planes as well.
All right. Stuart Johnston named the 15th commissioner of the CFL earlier this week. Stuart was an executive at TSN. He knows the league inside and out. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are obviously having a TSN guy there secures the TSN contract probably, right, for the next few years. And that's something that as much as you talk about developing new streams of revenue for the league, you also have to spend a fair amount of time ensuring that the existing stream of revenue remains as well, right? So hopefully that will solidify the relationship with TSN moving forward. I heard the sort of back end of some of the comments that you were making about TSN thinking that he's a great fit for the league. I'm curious to see. Obviously, this is a guy that comes from a world where they are just beginning to figure out how the rest of these digital platforms fit into the strategies when it relates to getting sports into in front of the viewer, right? It's not just the Canadian Football League that needs to reconfigure or reimagine the way sports content is viewed. It's the NHL, it's the NBA. So again, the problem with the CFL, though, is that while we're trying to reimagine what the next phase of viewership looks like in sports, the CFL is one of the only models that still relies on that butts in seats revenue aspect. So he's got a big job. He's going to have to be extremely political. You have to be able to navigate the nuances of the different ownership models in the league. So he's gonna have to understand that. He's gonna have to bring people together in terms of the CFLPA, in terms of the referees, the team owners. So it's a massive job, but it sounds like he can do it, and it sounds like he's prepared. So let's just get behind him. I think that one of the things that the CFL needs to do is whenever you have a leadership change like this, you've got to get behind the guy that's involved in it, right? He needs our support, and hopefully he can bring us into this next phase that I think we've been talking about entering for the last few years, or surely since we've left COVID. Right, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to obviously meet him at some point, and I know that everybody is. So, again, I think it's about embracing him and then being open. We've got to be open to new ideas as a league, right? Because again, you were talking about on the back end of your thing about him is like, yeah, you're right. Like we have a butts and seats revenue model, right? And, does Canada have the capacity, Maz, to create a gambling model the size, and that's as sustainable as the ones in America, right, around the NBA and the NFL? The answer to that, to the capacity-wise, is probably not. So you have to take things that you see are working in other spots, and then you have to kind of take what you actually have when it comes to the Canadian Football League and its capacity, just as a country, and you have to find the middle ground, because you're never going to have the capacity you do in the States without a sheer population, right? But you do have to figure out the things that make those models successful and then apply them into the Canadian Football League.
Color analyst Luc Mullinder joins us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline here on the Sports Cage. Now, with Stuart Johnson coming from TSN, here's the first thing I'd like to see them do, is from a TV tech standpoint. All right? The way that they shoot the Grey Cup and the playoff games, spider cam at every game, more cameras. The NFL has had goalpost and first down cameras now for years. Those are the kinds of things as a fan. I became a fan of NASCAR because the way that TV shoots it and has you right there in the cockpit when you need to be, and with the cameras and the angles, and we've seen it. And if that means allotting more budget, like I get it. If the spider cam, it's funny. The broadcast booth where you guys are is right next to the TSN booth. And right next to you, when the money is there for that game, are the spider cam guys. But unless it's the playoffs, spider cam's not there. All right? No. Spider cam at every game. So, and when we say spider cam, that's the one that is hanging over the field and works its way back and forth and is all on cables. It enhances the viewer experience.
Totally.
The goalpost cameras, they've been using those in the NFL for years. All right. It's probably technology you can buy. It just costs. First down, shooting the game better, making the game more appealing. I would say that's probably, if he's, like you had said, he's going to have a lot of hurdles. This job is like being a politician. Like you've got to, all these different, something small like this is in his wheelhouse. If this is just a matter of money and camera and technology, well, that's an easy check mark. I would start there and start stacking wins that way.
Yeah, you always have to take the low hanging fruit right away, right? But I agree with you. I think that we do have some capacity to improve the way the game is viewed. But again, we can't sit here and act like the Canadian Football League is just flush with cash, right? To where they can make an injection of significant value in terms of their, but like right now, I think that one of the reasons why that Spider Cam, is only at the bigger games is because, I mean, we probably only have one or two of them, right? Like you would need one in every single stadium, right? And that not just that, now you have to set the infrastructure up and you have to staff it and you have to be able to staff it properly, right? So I agree with you. I agree, do we have more? I always think that if we're as reliant as we are on the instant replay system, I've always felt like we needed to invest in more cameras on the field as well. But again, all of that infrastructure comes with a cost, right? And if you're a league where your revenue is a little bit lower, right? If this is the NFL, they're just like, hey, man, we need to throw 100 million at digital cameras in the shoes of the players, right? They're like, oh, okay, search your pockets, boys. You know what I mean? Like someone just throw it on the table and we'll go. That's not the Canadian. That's not the Canadian Football League's standing. And I do think that one of the other pieces is I think that the teams are as aligned as they are in terms of building the game. I think because of the different ownership models of each team, I think that there is some conflict that would come up around, okay, just where do we make our investments initially, right? And knowing that we want to grow the game, but also understanding that there are other teams that have priorities as well, right? So it's going to be interesting. But you said it right off the bat, man. He's going to have to be extremely astute when it comes to navigating the politics of the governors, of the owners, and just where we are now as a league. That's why,
Barney,
I remember they built, like, sorry, Namaz, I cut you off. I remember when they automatically raised the salary cap, right? When they found that they had done well and right. And I understood that, hey, yeah, great. Like the players are potentially going to get more money because there's more money around. But I would have really liked to see, and maybe they did this and it was just shot down, or maybe that this just isn't the process. But in my mind, when you're a league that's really trying to develop, if you realize that you're doing a lot better in terms of financials and that you can actually contribute to more money to each team, I would have liked to see just a pause on that and say, hey, wait, we can redo this bargaining agreement, guys, based on the more cash we have, or like, what does it look like if we take some of that money and invest it and inject it into actual league viewership, right? And the infrastructure you're talking about. So again, I do think you're going to have to be creative with the ways that you operate just in general as that league.
Logan Ferland signs a 2-year extension, which will keep him in green and white through 2027. Big money as well. Good Canadian offensive linemen are hard to find, and they got a gem in Ferland. This is a no-brainer. Like, this is just JO, just box checked. Let's get this done. Next, move on. Let's move on. I think it's just a great sign showing the club is willing to long-term with guys because they're trying to build something special here, which is great because before guys would come, they'd honor their contract, but then they leave, they're gone, they're all of that, where there wasn't necessarily that stickiness to Rider Nation, where now we're starting to see these extensions come out, which I think only breeds for everybody else that is coming into Rider Nation that this is a place to be.
You have to remember where J.O. was in his career with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, right? He came over from the Argos, and he obviously, when he started out as a center here with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, there wasn't that immediate success, right? Like he was part of a building, and he was the building block. He was the core, one of our core leaders, but he was our core leader from like really early on and throughout that point that is coined essentially the decade of decadence, right? Where the Riders were going to Grey Cups. We won in 2007. We were one of the better teams all the way through. We won another one in 2013. Probably would have won another one in 2004. But all throughout that phase, Jo was our leader, right? Some of it in the football operations side, but the majority of it on the field. And one of the things that Jo understood and understands now is that you win with the trenches, but more importantly, Jo was part of offensive lines that were solidified, that stayed together, that were the core group of guys also in the locker room. And I don't think there's anybody better, in the league right now than to build around than a guy like Logan Ferland. He is a fantastic football player. He's an even better person, and man, he's just a work hard dude. You want those lunch pail hard hat guys in your locker room, and when they're leading the team, you're going to be set up for incredible success. So I think that it was a contract that was well earned, and I was glad to see that he was getting paid as one of the higher guys in the league because he deserves it. And he was my offensive lineman of the year without a doubt. As many times as they moved him around and didn't have a drop off everywhere they put him, just proved how good he was. And I understand that, the winner of the O-line, he's an incredible player too. But I thought Logan Ferland was the O-lineman of the year this year, and I expect him to be the O-line of the year candidate for the Riders and for the West again. I think he's that good, and I think that he's got a bright, bright future. He's a Gene Mikowski guy potentially. Right, and he's a guy that can play for a decade or so, and hopefully at the end of his career, you're talking about him as a Hall of Famer, but more importantly, you're talking about him as a multi-time Grey Cup champion, because that's what'll work out for the Green and White.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's the next step. I mean, 2013, hey, it was great, but we can't live in the past. They were going on 12 years since the last Grey Cup, and now that is the next building block today. Aaron Patrick is signed. He'll be at training camp. Aaron Patrick is a 6'4", 245-pound pass rusher. Spent some time with the Jacksonville Jaguars and then the Denver Broncos. Released in 2023 with an injury claim. I don't think he played football in 24. Do you know anything about this, Aaron? Yeah, anything about this Aaron Patrick that they've signed to?
No, I don't know. I don't know much about Aaron Patrick. I know that the description of pass rusher is accurate, and I think that he's got the ability to be successful. But again, yeah, you're right. He had some injury issues that took him out, I think, and I can't remember how much football, if any, he played in 2004. But again, it fits the sort of the need, right, for Jeremy O'Day and then the Saskatchewan Roughriders heading into training camp. They've got to identify where their pass rushers are coming from, right, and especially on the other side of Malik Carney, you're not going to have Brian Cox Jr. obviously this year, right, and he was exceptional, and a couple of the other guys they've left that were depth guys. So you've got to find another guy. I know we got Shane Ray in there as well, but again, he's a little bit older, and he also had significant sort of injury struggles, right? So I'm glad at this point you've just got to make sure A, your camp roster is filled with bodies, obviously, but B, they're filled with bodies that you actually need to identify some opportunities, because there are some gaps right now on that roster.
CFL draft order released yesterday. Stamps picking number 1, and then with the BC picks, they'll pick again at 8. We had Randy Chevrier on the show last week, and we asked him about Jake Maier, and he said that he got a chance to know Jake during the COVID years, and talked about what a great guy he is just as a person, but then as a teammate, and that sometimes the spotlight in Calgary got to him, the shoes he had to fill, when at times that's what brought him down. And he thinks him coming in as potentially a number 2, not a lot of pressure, the Trevor, it's the perfect situation, and he thinks that he can do great things. And he thought we're incredibly lucky that a Jake Maier on a team-friendly contract can really do that up. And then we get the Tommy Stevens, because we were talking about Stampeders East, basically, in Rider training camp. Do you kind of see that in Maier as well? Because when he's on, he was great. But sometimes when the pressure was on, that's when it kind of fell apart, and he lost weapons, injuries, and it fell. You've probably played with guys like that sometimes when there's no pressure at all, they excel, because it's house money.
Well, I'm actually it's hard to imagine a situation here that Jake Maier is going to walk into that doesn't involve pressure. I mean, this is Rider Nation. If Jake Maier thought the pressure was tough in Calgary,
I know. I know.
Trust me, it's 3 times that, if more, in Saskatchewan. But I think that sometimes change is good for people, right? Sometimes they need to change the scenery. I think that Saskatchewan, one of the key sort of things about Saskatchewan is the way that players, because it's especially Regina is such a small town, right? Like you kind of end up spending the majority of the time around your teammates. You can spread out in places like Toronto and Calgary, right? And you might not see your guys until practice, but you end up hanging out with guys all the time here in Saskatchewan and Regina because it's such a fishbowl. So I think that it'll be good for him, but I don't see any scenario where he doesn't have any pressure, right? If he has to roll in a couple games for Trevor Harris, I mean, this is a team, you got to remember, this is a team that the expectation is going to be fairly high. They returned the majority of the core. They are a very good team on paper right now, and that team on paper was the same team that was in the West Final last year, right? So realistically, again, if you look at my last time here and the time before that, I was talking about them being, predicting them as the West representative in the Grey Cup. Realistically, that's kind of where you got to be in order to keep building, right? Because you were in the West Final last year. So any situation he's going to step into is going to feature some pressure. But I think the difference is that he's not the guy right off the bat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think he's going to have a little bit of time to slowly get into a routine with these guys, get to know Saskatchewan and the organization. And then when he is, I think that he's going to be in a situation where if he does have to fill time for Trevor Harris, he would have had time to sort of absorb and set his feet, right? If he was coming in here right away and he was your number one quarterback all the way through training camp, that would be a completely different situation. So you're right. I mean, he comes in, he's a guy that is going to be asked to just be a great teammate, and apparently he is. And again, it's he was the best backup available in the Canadian Football League this free agency. So there is going to be an opportunity. I'm excited to see him when he does get it.
Rider Nation, we do love our backup quarterbacks. There's always been that love affair.
Man,
There's always been that love affair. Speaking of quarterbacks, let's switch leagues. Joe Milton traded from the New England Patriots to the Dallas Cowboys. Does it even matter, Luke? The Dallas Cowboys. The season is how many months away, and I already am. I have an upset stomach thinking about the Cowboys and what this season's going to be. Like, Joe Milton's not going to make a difference. Let's be honest here.
Listen, as a Cowboys fan, I'm just glad Jerry actually did something like in the offseason. Like, I'm glad he did anything. I was surprised. I was like, oh man, Jerry actually, like, he's not on the boat. Look at that. He made a football transaction in the offseason. It's amazing. We might have life. I think Joe Milton's awesome. I thought he was a great draft pick the year before. I thought he was an absolute stud. He was just in a situation in New England where they had another young stud, right? I think that kid is, I really liked him when he was in college too. So, and by the way, Saskatchewan needs a backup, right? And the nice part about it is that New England traded him to the Cowboys because they wanted to do him a solid. So they actually told him sort of where his options were in terms of the teams that wanted to trade for him, and it worked for them that they sent him off to Dallas. And he probably knows, hey man, this is a quarterback in Dallas that is good when he's on top of his game, but has missed significant times the last 2 years. So I'm going to get some PT. I think Dallas Cowboys fans are pumped up. The problem is that he's going to come into the Cowboys, and we've got a number of questions along that offensive line, right? So is it going to be detrimental to your development, right? Are you going to be running for your life and snapping the ball and moving around earlier than you want to as a young quarterback? I mean, it's not as if New England had the greatest offensive line when he was in there, and he made some plays. So I think that Dallas Cowboys, we're excited just that Jerry actually is not dead, and we don't have to prod him with a stick. And B, we've got a young player that a lot of other people like as well.
When we had Doubles on Monday, we asked him about Trey Lance, backup quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, and if what Darian thought, could he make it in the CFL? And Darian thinks he is more suited to be a CFL starting quarterback than an NFL starting quarterback just because of the skill set that he has.
Yeah, right. I think that it's an athletic skill set. He's got a strong arm, right? And again, you look at the Canadian Football League, you look at the width of the field. Can you get the ball out with some velocity to the sides, right? Can you run as a quarterback? But again, I think that I do agree with Doubles that he could be a quarterback in the CFL. But again, I also revert back to you need to be a pocket passer at some stage to win a Grey Cup championship, right? Zach Caleros, I mean, even Nick Arbuckle, right? Like Nick Arbuckle, quarterback the Argos to a championship, and he's a pocket quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to be a guy who can navigate the pocket. So I agree with him. He's got such an amazing athletic, and that's what got him drafted so high in the first place, right? Was his athletic ceiling. It's just, you just look at the guy and you're like, man, this guy can do anything. He could be in the NBA if he wanted. You know what I mean? So, but we've seen guys like that. And unfortunately, they don't always work out, right? Casey Printers, before he went to the NFL, not necessarily when he came back, but Casey Printers was the same type of guy, right? But at the end of the day, the flaw of not being able to sit in the pocket and pass the ball with accuracy got to Casey Printers, right? So. I think that Trey Lance will always be probably, that athletic skill set is going to keep him employed as a backup. But again, that's not a bad thing in the NFL, right? Look at guys like Brian Hoyer, right? Like he's a smart
Chase
man,
Daniel.
but dude, these guys are set for the rest of their lives. Their families are set for generations being a backup quarterback. So that's nothing to shake a stick at there, man. You still got to be an amazing athlete, an amazing football player to be in the 1% that is the NFL.
All right. It's Luc Mullinder, your color voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. There's Curtis.
Also, yeah, I just want to say it might not work out as well because he just signed a 1-year deal with the Chargers. So probably not get into the CFL.
Well, here's the thing, though, man. I mean, he'll probably bounce around, and again, I just, the CFL game is going to move on too. You know what I mean? The less you're on the field, the more someone else is on the field, right? So I think that it was good for the Riders to get him on their neg list, because if he had decided he wanted to continue his football career in a different league, then we would have had a chance to look at him first. You know what I mean? So I think that that's the approach you need to take in the Canadian Football League. If there's an athlete out there that hasn't necessarily worked out for whatever reason in the league, throw him on your neg list, give him a shot, and see if you can work with him.
All right. Luc, my friend, thanks for doing this. Safe travels to Zennon Park tomorrow night to the sports dinner, and we'll do this again. Say hi to Big Daddy on the trip tomorrow. Right?
Yeah, man. Hey, look, it was good to talk to you, man. We haven't connected in a while, and I will never refer to another man as such, and I especially won't with Dave.
All righty.